everybody, it's Merlin here, and I've got a very special guest with me. Some of you may have listened to Film Fanatics a while ago. We had a guest, Peter. I used to work with him, big movie fan, big sci-fi fan, professor.
Indeed.
He's even, I think you're integrating some science fiction.
I'm
some of your
actually teaching a science fiction class in the English department.
Yes, you told me about a little while ago, and I remember you posted, I think, on Facebook suggestions about other TNG episodes, and you showed them Darmok, correct?
We did Darmok. Led to a very nice discussion about memes. We used that as a jumping off point for communication.
Okay.
Had them bring in memes the next week, and we talked about the idea that the episode is using these metaphors, analogies for communication in the same way that we use memes.
Okay.
Which students got a kick out of. I thought they enjoyed that.
Are there any good Darmok specific memes? I know there's plenty of TNG ones in general.
There is. I'm trying to. Somebody did bring in one. Maybe we can pull up.
Yeah, heck, why not? Darmok meme. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we got. I'll be disappointed if there isn't anything, actually.
Yeah, there was some kind of Trump, or it was some kind of election one from 2016 that somebody brought in.
Oh, no. Oh, well, there's always plenty of entertainment from that. Darmok and Tanaga. That's classy. You got the election there. What do we got? Great, stuck on some stinking planet with a guy who speaks in rhymes. I cannot get a hold of my ship. What was that noise? All right. Some classic Darmok and Jalad. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of
specific ones.
Somebody did bring in a meme that had to do. I'm trying to remember specifically. It had something to do with the election. I think it was something like Hillary when the walls fell or something.
Hillary when the walls fell, and of course,
it's
going back to the whole Trump.
Yeah, it's like
concept.
Trump smiling, smiling and.
You know what? That's too perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah,
but the walls never did fall.
No,
they were never really built because that's a whole other conversation.
Well, yeah, that's I think a different.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to, and we decide not to talk about enough sci-fi things, you can talk about whatever you want.
That's fine.
But anyway, on that note, Peter, I know you're a big sci-fi fan, and I've been trying to talk with you about sci-fi stuff in general. So I'm going to say this.
A very long time.
It is going to be the Sci-Fi podcast now. What do you want to talk about, man?
Well, maybe we could talk about the past 5 years in science fiction.
Okay.
Start with, where do we see things now? Where do we think it's going?
Well, when I think about recent sci-fi stuff, I remember we had some discussions about really good movies. And I will admit I'm tired, but the first film that comes to mind, which I remember a bunch of us talked about, really liked, was Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes.
And I think just as a really well done, not only a science fiction film and an action movie, but dealing with time travel specifically, but utilizing it properly, as you know is hard to do, that sticks out to me as one of the best sci-fi action movies in years, and I don't think I've seen too much the last couple years that's matched up to it.
No, I think that was a unique, great movie. I actually have that poster in my office at school.
Yes.
Although the frame is currently broken due to a mishap.
Your anger, not a sequel. There is a sequel coming out.
There is a sequel. It is in production, and I am confident that something will be produced. I just don't know if it'll be
comparable.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same. My concern is that the same thing with Pacific Rim, that they're going to get rid of Doug Liman and get Tom Cruise back maybe, but it won't be lose some of the magic that was there.
Well, there's always that initial surprise because it was kind of a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
Not to shift gears immediately, but you did remind me, specifically branching off from sci-fi, I've just kind of noticed in fandom in general that, I mean, obviously geek culture is kind of as big as it's ever been in the mainstream.
It is.
And I just noticed that really a lot of these nostalgic things are coming back, and film, TV, anime.
Yeah.
A lot of the good stuff's coming back, being reinvented. giant monsters with Pacific Rim.
Indeed.
That was one of the first... Was that the first film to really jump off, or was there something before that kind of increased interest in Godzilla and stuff?
I would think that it was an indie movie, Monsters, from...
Monsters?
That was the Colin Trevorrow.
Was it Gareth Edwards? He did New Godzilla.
Gareth Edwards, sorry. I knew it was one of the Star Wars directors that's not... but Monsters was a little indie movie from...
2011?
Yeah.
2012?
I guess Cloverfield as well, also in that period. So it's always been there, but I think we're just seeing it, it's accelerating.
Mm-hmm. And, I don't remember. Did you enjoy Pacific Rim, right?
I did. I loved that movie.
Tell me more.
It was the right amount of camp. It really captured that. Really captured something about what makes Godzilla great. Is it wasn't overly serious. It was sort of dumb, and it knew it was dumb, and just went for it and had ridiculous things, and really was honest about what it was.
It didn't have any illusions about being something else.
No, it was not something. Look at Independence Day Resurgence.
Oh God! Talk about the ass end of sci-fi.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? I know we're dovetailing here, but God, for those of you that don't know, I love Independence Day. I mean, it's cheesy, 90s fun, whatever. But I'll admit, I was kind of excited about a sequel.
Yeah.
But those ingredients were missing, and I want to say it was trying to be campy. I thought that movie was... I guess the original was dumb, but it didn't have that charm. There was something lacking. What do you think it was?
Will Smith?
But if we had Goldblum, was he not enough?
I guess not. I mean, I don't know. They had all the elements were there. They even had
Bill Pullman,
who, to my mind, was the best part of the original.
That speech.
Yeah, that speech. I mean, that's
one of the great movie speeches.
Yeah, I played that last semester for my speech class as an example of here's a great speech. There's problems with it in the actual
narrative.
But this is
it's a good fun thing to get you riled up. So by that theory, Peter, you're saying that Independence Day Resurgence, if they had the exact same script and everything was exactly the same, but Will Smith was somehow inserted in the movie, it would have been better?
Perhaps. I mean, we won't know. Will Smith was in Suicide Squad, and that was
another bad decision.
Yeah.
I've noticed on this podcast, it seems like I've been trying to get various friends in here, and we end up kind of always going over some of the same topics, which I guess is fine. But I'm going to get your 2 cents because I haven't talked to you about it in a while. Dovetailing a little bit again, I can tell the flow of this podcast.
That's all right. Yeah.
I saw Justice League.
Yes.
Did you see Justice League?
I did.
Okay, well, just in general, the DC Expanded Universe has been a very mixed bag for a lot of people.
Yes.
And how do you feel it's going so far, having seen Justice League and etc.? I've talked about it already, so feel free to go ahead.
Wonder Woman was great. I think it was the second best superhero movie of the year, and this has been a very good year for superhero movies.
I agree. What was number 1?
Logan, I think, was the best.
Logan, it was so early in the year, but that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Thor didn't rank as high for you, huh?
Thor is probably number 3, although Spider-Man Homecoming was really a nice surprise.
This has been like the year of good superhero movies.
And we also got Lego Batman was great. That was a ton of fun. I don't think it was as good as the original Lego movie, but...
No, but pretty good for what it was.
Yeah, it was pretty good. There were so many nice little touches in that movie that
the nods to all the little...
Yeah, it's rewatchable. I've seen it, I think, twice now, and I will probably see it again.
Nice.
Because there's so many little Easter eggs and in-jokes and references.
Cool. But you saw Justice League, so...
I did.
How do you feel that culminated? Because I had mixed feelings about it. Pretty strong mixed feelings.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I thought that it was better than... It felt like a more complete thing than Batman v Superman.
Yes.
And it was less of a mess than...
Suicide
Squad.
Yeah.
But it felt a little less willing. I mean, it took more risks than the average Marvel movie, but it still kind of just didn't...
No consequences, really.
Yeah, there's no consequences. Everything kind of ends up okay. I like the idea of a grittier universe where there are consequences, but this kind of felt
not fully willing to commit.
Yeah,
well, when we were reviewing the movie, you actually bring up a good point that was touched upon. My buddy Nick brought this up. He was like, essentially, this movie, these films, want to set themselves apart from Marvel by being darker, grittier comic book movies.
Yeah,
but not really committing to that, because one of the big issues I've noticed that people have come up when they're criticizing the movies is that there's a lack of consequences, to the deaths. Like there are no consequences, but as you know, it's like they're emulating comics where they get around that a lot.
Yes, and that is something I think one of the strong points of Dawn of Justice was that there was some, that Batman, there was plenty of problems with that, but Batman was driven to do what he did because of all the terrible things that happened to Metropolis.
Yes.
But I feel like they've gone too far back in the other direction with, again, Dawn of Justice ends, there's an island in the middle of the harbor that nobody's on. But Wonder Woman brought back those concepts. She fails to save the village. People die.
That's true. I guess you're right. There are stakes, just not with any major cast members.
No. Well, again, that's the Marvel has killed off Quicksilver.
Whoa. Well, my biggest issue with that was that they kind of made a joke about him dying, and then literally, one of the next scenes he's dead. So they poked fun of it and then killed him, and his character wasn't established enough to mean anything. He gets introduced and killed off.
Yeah,
he was kind of a throwaway anyway.
And Guardians 2 did kill Yondu, but again, he's a supporting character. It's not, they haven't had a major.
I'll give you that. Yondu was probably the most heart-wrenching death so far.
Yeah.
But the way I viewed it, he was basically a villain for most of the last movie.
Yeah.
And then the integration of the fact he had a better relationship with Quill was nice, but I felt like they just did that once again to kill him off.
Yes, and the relationship was still deeply problematic of a very abusive, sort of played jokingly, but this abusive relationship of he'd been threatening to eat Peter.
Yeah, he was threatening to eat him, and he was going to sell him off, but he actually cared about him the whole time. So it had an interesting dynamic for sure.
Yeah, it felt a little underdeveloped. I think Guardians 2 is a stronger film than the first one.
You know what? I do too, and I will admit I think Guardians 2 was better, ironically, because it was a little more serious.
Yeah, it got the balance right. The first one's important because it showed that a superhero comedy could work. It's essentially what it was. But this gave more arcs to carry. And Drax still felt underdeveloped.
Drax is your favorite too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he felt that underdeveloped. I mean, he was still obviously mourning his family and getting past it.
I just felt like he didn't. I mean, that's the problem with any kind of ensemble superhero movies. Some people are just not going to have a lot to do. And
they added more characters this time.
Yeah, we now have Mantis and early Yondu was a
temporary member,
pretty major character for this movie.
And then I guess if you've all seen it, but then even more possible Guardians at the end there with the old team.
Yeah.
Too many people? How many people are going to be in Infinity War? Are they going to fit them all in there?
I don't know how they're going to do it
without being ridiculous.
Civil War did pretty well.
But even so, every time I think of Infinity War, and I know it's not the actual comic because you've read it, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was more condensed to certain areas, a lot of dialogue, and then a big fight. But I just am picturing giant explosions throughout the galaxy, and everybody just trying to jump on Thanos. Like if they could try to emulate what happens in the comic, where he literally defeats time and eternity. How can they pull it off and then do anything after that?
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, where does it go? But Spider-Man did. Spider-Man had had Civil War fight the Avengers, and then he fights Vulture, and Vulture does feel like a step down, but it worked.
Yeah, I'm personally happy. I don't know if you remember, but Vulture was always my favorite Spidey villain, and it was good to see him portrayed in such an interesting way.
Yeah, I think it was very well done. It was very well. I mean, I wanted Vulture to win.
I understood.
I felt what he was feeling. I'm like, I want him to get away because he's...
all right. Well, in addition to that, let me ask you, Peter, do you think that Michael Keaton's Vulture is the most complex Marvel villain thus far? Or is Loki still having beat?
I feel like Loki's been overdone.
You tired of Loki a little bit?
I'm tired of Loki. I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. I enjoyed Loki's role in it, but it didn't change that much. I mean, I guess it's part of the point.
Yeah, the character is true.
Yeah, it's a big theme of Loki in the comics. Is that he's never going to change. He's always going to be
Loki.
I
remember there was one comic I read where I guess Loki was trying to determine a way he could defeat Thor, and there was some seer that's like, well, let me show you how it is. And he literally showed him all the different universes where he is always Loki, he can never change, and he always gets taken down by Thor.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. It's destiny. And that fits with the themes of Ragnarok, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're right, that's true to it, but I guess it also makes him a little redundant after a while.
Yeah, it just feels like there's not a lot to do with him. He felt and I'm glad with what they did with Thor Ragnarok that Loki wasn't the main villain.
He was, thankfully.
His plot was undone pretty quickly and comically, which made for a stronger movie, but
it kind of makes it seem like, well, what are you going to literally have him try to do the same thing again when we've seen him fail so poorly?
Yeah, and it's
in a way, I agree with you. It's like they sabotaged what they set up in the previous Thor film, where they were setting this dark thing where he is going to be disguised as Odin, and that might be involved with Ragnarok, and then it's like they threw that out and made it comical, and then inserted Hulk in that storyline.
Yeah, which was fine. I quite enjoyed Ragnarok, and I think it was one of the stronger. We're in Phase 2 still, or is this Phase 3 now?
Phase 3. We're in Phase 3 now.
So it's definitely probably the strongest Phase 3 movie, again, other than Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely my favorite, but I've got a bias anyway.
Which itself has its own weird continuity and may or may not.
When does that take place? Is that supposed to... apparently the timeline has gotten so undefined now that we don't know where it all is. I'll be honest, I just kind of assume they're roughly in chronological order, but... Yeah,
my impression is that Doctor Strange takes place sometime before all Civil War and all the big stuff, but I don't know why I thought that.
Well, it's because Thor and Hulk's storyline is unrelated, so we don't know when it is taking place.
That's true.
You're right.
We know that... Yeah, I guess we know...
I thought Doctor Strange took place after Civil War because there was that one line about that injury that was sustained by a war machine when he fell. I think, but
that might be. Yeah,
But I don't know. I mean, apparently it's undefined. How much does it matter? Does it matter? Does it really matter?
It doesn't. I mean, it's comic books. They already play fast and loose with the timeline.
Have we gotten to the point where we need parallel universes yet, like full X-Men style? No,
not yet, but
it's getting there.
Yeah, I think we're approaching that point.
You know what? I'll be honest. I really am still impressed by the business model and the passion that Marvel Studios has for their products, because some of these characters I've never been big fans of, and they started off with taking people that weren't heavy hitters they had, like Iron Man, and making them the most popular characters. So we've got a character like Black Panther, which, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't know too much about him.
No, I've read some of the stories, and there's some good runs on his comics, but
point is, his movie looks awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited for a character that I normally would have been like, he's a supporting Avenger.
I'm gonna go see it opening night probably, because that's what I've done for the past 5 Marvel movies.
And I just do you think it's possible that Warner Brothers can catch up to emulate that? Are they going to try? They're trying a little, but it's still not the same level.
Yeah, they're. I mean, part of the problem is that Warner Brothers' house style was based on Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder's not as good a filmmaker as Jon Favreau.
No, or the Russo brothers, I guess.
The Russo brothers, or the Marvel style has developed, and there are some. Iron Man 2 is not a great movie.
No, I agree, but you compare it to a lot of other films, it's not so bad comparatively.
Yeah, and I think the other problem is that Warner is still under the shadow of the Christopher Nolan Batman. We got to be gritty. That's what the fans want. They want gritty superheroes. They want darkness. They want weight and reality.
It's really hard to satisfy fans. And is it DC fans that are worse because it seems like I've noticed that all these movies, because of the Nolan shadow, they're trying to be like Batman. But as you know, DC Comics are bright and colorful like Marvel for the most part.
For the most part. I mean
they're like, thematically, okay, you want to be a little darker to be different, fine. But have you noticed that there's that dark tinge with the Zack Snyder movies, that they just visually don't look as appealing?
Yeah, that was part of the appeal of Wonder Woman, is that it was bright and sunshiny.
It was like, it's a superhero movie that looks colorful and vibrant, it's magical, it's fun, a little bit. And it was still serious, I think.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just wish they would be more like Wonder Woman, honestly.
I know, yeah. Why not hire Patty Jenkins to run your universe? Why do we need, they jumped on Zack Snyder, the Zack Snyder train right out of the gate.
Well, is he even going to be involved in the movies after what happened with him?
I don't know.
Because I know he had an issue with his daughter.
Yeah.
So it's dark, but honestly, Joss Whedon helped write the script for this one. Maybe he's not going to work for Marvel. Why not have him do a few movies?
No, he is going to do Batgirl.
He is, for sure.
Yeah.
But is that going to be in this universe?
I would think so, but I would rather that they take more lessons from Wonder Woman than I don't want a dark and gritty Batgirl necessarily. I want the Batgirl Burnside.
Well, I can see the studio maybe trying, but they're probably going to trust Joss Whedon because he is Whedon.
Yeah.
So maybe if he's doing like a Buffy style thing,
and Whedon knows how to do the bright and sunshiny with the darkness underneath. That's Buffy.
Yeah, to a T.
Yeah,
definitely.
Southern California, but there's the Hellmouth underneath there.
Buffy's such a good show.
I know. Yeah.
I discovered that one late, man. But I'll tell you, like when I got into that one, that and Angel, I just was addicted. I couldn't stop.
Yeah, no, I started Buffy when I think I started with season 2 when I was in high school and stuck with it. And
man, I made the mistake of, for years when I was a kid, I would see it advertised and think, it's just girl show.
Well, my sister watched it, and then I was
well, lucky you, man. I know.
Hey,
but better late than never.
Yeah.
Buffy is good, but well, man, I feel like we're just talking about superhero movies, but X-Men. What's the future of X-Men? Do they get doing a horror movie with New Mutants now, kind of?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm intrigued. I hope I like the playing with the genre. Logan as a Western was great. Mm-hmm. Deadpool as a comedy, that was great. Deadpool 2.
I'm very excited for that one.
Teaser was amazing. And I'm just I'm hoping that they'll, and even something like Legion on TV really did some really interesting things. And
all right, do you think that we are just entering a new wave where superheroes are going to be the big thing of entertainment for a while, or are we to get burned out? Is the bubble going to burst?
The bubble will burst eventually.
But just roughly, how long do you think it's going to be before people do start to get tired of superhero flicks and stuff?
Obviously, some people already are tired. My thought would be, so Western. So I always look to Western. Westerns were very popular from about
30s.
Yeah, the 30s on. They're cheap to make. They were easy to make. They really hit like the late 30s. John Wayne, Stagecoach. And Westerns did adapt. Part of it is that Westerns were able to adapt at the time. You had kind of the darker Westerns in the 60s. Clint Eastwood comes along. Mm-hmm. But Westerns are dead as of about
75.
Yeah, 75. Maybe Heaven's Gate is 78 is kind of the end point. But
that was a disaster.
Yeah. But they're still around. We get a couple Westerns every year.
But they're no longer the main staple.
No. Because it was just oversaturated, and you can only tell with so many Western stories. There's a book that has a list all about Westerns, but there's like 8 plots that every Western has one of these 8 plots.
Tell me, I'm curious now. What can you remember?
Something like it's so there's a group like by Man vs. Nature, which is the gold prospectors, or something like Treasure Sierra Madre. You have the standard, sheriff versus outlaws. You get the posse together, gunfights. You have the railroad stories, which are all about the coming of the railroad, either the good or bad. Sometimes the railroad is the villain.
It's like half of them already.
Yeah, and you end up kind of stuck in these genres, and people get tired of it.
Well, I guess the benefit of superheroes, and I remember I used to say this about comics when I was reading them, as you know, I guess because for a long time, since it wasn't considered a serious art, a lot of these writers could use the superhero stories to tell every kind of story with superheroes in them.
Yeah.
So maybe there's more variety there.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of room in... And superhero movies are more aware. Westerns...
Too serious?
Yeah, they just weren't... there were certainly comedy westerns, but they just weren't aware of genre as such. We just didn't have film studies. We didn't have fandoms like we do now, for better or worse. But
are there Western fandoms?
Oh yeah, there certainly is, but it's much smaller than any superhero fandom.
That's true. Okay, so Westerns dominated for probably like 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
What about musicals? Because musicals were also one of the big things for a long time.
Yeah, musicals were about that same
time.
So really the 1930s when you start to have sound enters in movies up until probably a little later, maybe the 70s. And they're still around, but...
What is that kind of similar to the modern state of the musical Westerns? They're there, but not really
they're there. We still have musicals. We all know what the musicals are. We watch, certain musicals, and Disney does, Disney, they've kind of been relegated to animated film, whether it's Disney or, something like Sing.
Well, I'm curious now. Because I've never been able to figure this out. I have pondered on the Western timeline and the musical timeline, and superheroes are the big thing now. But then I guess, say, between like 75 and 2005, I guess we'll say, maybe like Round the Boom, was there a dominant genre?
Science fiction was very dominant, especially after Star Wars.
But not as much... maybe through the 80s on a little bit.
Through the 80s on, especially, it hit really big by the 90s once technology kind of caught up. Because science fiction is very expensive to make.
True.
Becomes a lot cheaper when CG becomes cheaper.
You're right. I guess with technically sci-fi and fantasy, I guess in addition to superhero movies, may have been the jumping off point for them. Because Lord of the Rings, obviously, and then Matrix, things like that. Very embedded in pop culture now.
Indeed, yeah. It's
all right,
but there's also other things going on. There's there's a certain style of comedy. I think the Bill Murray Saturday Night Live influenced anything from Ghostbusters to Wayne's World.
Kind of like the ad-libbed sort of, kind of a satirical. When you say like Bill Murray and Mike Myers, I think there's that snark, that self-aware snark. That's just there in a lot of those films. Very dominant.
Which to my mind sort of dies off around, really around 2000. We get a series of bad SNL movies, Ladies' Man and Night of the Roxbury, as well as sort of the death of the sci-fi comedy with Evolution. The David Duchovny...
I know of it. I have not seen it. I did watch a David Duchovny movie recently, Playing God, which is a thriller.
Oh yeah.
Pretty decent, actually, for what it was.
It was definitely went under the radar I remember when it came out. I was a big X-Files fan.
My buddy Troll actually gave me it for my birthday, and I was surprised I hadn't heard of it. I looked it up. Ebert liked it. It was like decent, but I've never heard of it until recently.
I was big into Duchovny at the time. So
he's a good actor. I guess between X-Files and Californication, he's had a good career, but not really so much on film.
He's never really managed to make the crowd, but that's, we're in the...
You could argue it's better to get TV work these days.
It's the golden age of TV, and X-Files, they're coming back soon for season 2.
Have you caught up with it?
I have not. I know.
What?
I know I need to. I'm behind on everything.
Pete, you're busy. Believe me, I'm behind on a lot of things too.
Yeah.
But I do remember that I made it a point to watch the 6 episodes, and spoiler free, it was mixed. I thought there was some good stuff.
What I hear is that but that was the original X-Files. It wasn't.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't. Yeah. To be honest with you, I really think that the X-Files has very few terrible episodes.
Yes.
Like, even the bad ones are kind of entertaining.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's in a way I will watch any Star Trek episode because.
Oh yeah.
Even a bad Star Trek episode is usually okay.
You know what? That's it. That's going to be the next topic because I remember when I met this man, we talked about discussing Star Trek in some form. Okay. And we haven't in any great detail. So
no, we haven't.
Let's start now. Peter, what is your relationship to Star Trek? Tell me.
All right. So my relationship to Star Trek actually comes from my mom. She was a fan of the original series.
Cool.
And I never really, didn't really watch it much until Next Generation, but she watched Next Generation, so I watched Next Generation and became a big fan of it. And she had a bunch of the old like Star Trek novels and short stories and stuff, and that's where I really got into it.
Huh.
And from there, you know, I remember, because that was like the night, so I started maybe season 2 or 3 of Next Generation. Got into Deep Space Nine pretty quick, which is still my favorite series. Watched every single episode of Voyager and Enterprise. Except I have not actually seen the Enterprise finale because I missed it, and then everyone said you shouldn't watch it because it ruins the show. And
it ruins TNG too.
Yeah,
kind of.
I'm like, I don't need that in my life, especially since it apparently has been retconned now.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, on that note, I mean, maybe you haven't. Have you followed anything with Discovery?
I am currently watching Discovery. I am 5 episodes in.
All right. Well, you're ahead of me. There was the whole CBS All Access thing. I don't have that. No. So, and a lot of people don't, which was one of the big controversies, which I've also talked about at length on here. It seems like, but I still want to watch it because I'm a Star Trek fan. Mm-hmm. But you're well seasoned in it too. I haven't heard much good from it. What do you think?
I actually like it. I think I'm the only one of my friends that likes it.
Okay.
A lot of them prefer the Orville, which I need to watch. I've watched the pilot. I didn't like it too much, but
I have heard some people say that Orville is actually a more accurate adaptation in some ways.
Well, in my point with I think that Star Trek Discovery is to Deep Space Nine what the Next Generation was to the original series. It is much more in the vein of Deep Space Nine in terms of sort of the moral gray areas.
It's more gray areas, probably more battles, more
it's
subterfuge and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm interested in what they're doing, and there's problems with it, as with anyone that says there's no season of Star Trek that was, except for maybe the original series, that was actually good in its first season. There are good episodes.
I think. Yeah,
and I would say Voyager's first season might be its best because it
doesn't really keep one off the rails a bit towards the end of the Borg.
Yeah, it fit what they were trying to do before turning into a much more traditional Star Trek series.
That's true, but you're right. I guess the original Trek probably had the best solid season technically, even though I do believe it was going to be canceled after that too. Yeah. What's up with that? It's those tough runs for Trek always.
Yeah, but that's the origin of the fandom. That was, that's
in a way you're right.
Yeah, it's the first time we saw a concerted fan effort, at least in the sort of the modern era, to protect something.
A property, a right. That's true, and actually that is true. I guess modern geek culture does kind of stem back to Star Trek's fandom.
Yeah, that's where the idea of organizing came from. At first, there were sci-fi conventions before them, but the first
fan convention,
the first Star Trek convention, I think, had 3 times as many people as the largest science fiction convention at that point. So
awesome.
It's clearly a moment when Star Trek gets people organized, gets them turning out, gets them producing fanzines.
All right. Well, I want to come back to that because I do have a good question related to that. But sticking on Discovery, my big fear going into it was I have this really weird conflicting feeling about the Abrams verse.
Yeah.
Where I really want to like them, and I think that they're fun films. They're not terrible, but I think of Star Trek, even the original series, which I like because my dad introduced me to it.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites too. Is that even in its campy way, it was still usually trying to be cerebral, and these movies are just so dumbed down. And I've never been able to fully get past that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I enjoy them. I've seen all three of them. I think Into Darkness was not great.
They shouldn't have touched Khan. That was unnecessary.
And especially the whole, it's not really Khan, but it is.
Oh, the worst kept secret in marketing ever, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my question is Discovery more in the vein of those movies?
No, maybe it's closer to Into Darkness. I see it closer to Deep Space Nine in terms of character relationships, in terms of the narrative, the focus of the show, the sort of dark underbelly of the universe.
Do the little things get on your nerves, like the the fan rage about how the Klingons look and whatnot?
It took a little to get used to how the Klingons look, but the appearance. I remember going back and watching the original series and seeing The Next Generation and not really understanding why do they look like this.
I do like the DS9. They sort of kind of explain it without explaining it.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it.
Yeah, they kind of... I think they did do an Enterprise, did like a...
The mutation. Yeah. There was like a different sets of Klingons, which I guess they expand on in this one a little bit.
Little bit, yeah. They're it's still pretty early. But I like what they're doing. I like kind of the development of the history of the universe. I think that it has some potential. Again, I haven't caught up to the break, and I know that there's some kind of big twist coming. But
okay, but you like it for the most part.
I enjoy it. I'm sticking with it. I'm glad it's getting a season 2.
How do you feel about the CBS All Access issue of it?
I have a lot of issues. I mean, we have Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime.
Was it a wise move? Are they too confident in Star Trek, or is it?
I think they're too confident in Star Trek.
Well, all right. That leads to my other question, because this kind of relates to the Abrams movies and the current state of Star Trek. Star Trek is one of the most popular sci-fi franchises out there.
Yeah,
definitely. It's very important. Do you think it is possible? Is there still a place for Star Trek being more slow-paced, more diplomatic, more utopian, like Roddenberry believed, or are they all going to be high-octane action now?
I think that's possible. I hope that Discovery will... I want to see where it evolves. It is more in that vein of kind of action. We do get space battles in the first... And
don't get me wrong, I mean, the original series was mostly action.
Yeah.
But still there was always that diplomatic side and that introspective philosophical side.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they will, because that was Deep Space Nine. There was the war later on, but even then it was a lot of sort of negotiation and... Yeah,
it was diplomatic stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a huge component, I think, of Trek, and that's my biggest issue with the Abrams movies, is I think they need a little more of that.
Yeah.
Just a little more even would satisfy me, and I'd be glad to hear Discovery isn't quite that lacking.
No, I'm enjoying it. I want to give it more time. I will probably stick. I mean, then again, I stuck with Voyager for 7 seasons
and Enterprise for most of it.
Yeah, well, Enterprise got better after season 2, but
so you liked all the time travel stuff.
It was original.
Didn't think they overdid it with the Xindi?
It was a little overdone, but...
Well, I might be in the minority. I liked the Xindi. I thought they were kind of a fun race.
I liked that they did something new. I liked that they introduced sort of a new threat. The way that DS9 did it, too, with the Dominion.
Oh, yes, the Dominion.
Something we really hadn't quite seen before. And they played up that diplomacy where the Xindi weren't just one race, but there's 4 races, and then there's these weird...
different interlocking issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's some silliness that goes along with that, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's a tough one for you, Peter.
Okay.
Best and worst Star Trek episode.
Like, overall?
Overall.
The best episode is In the Pale Moonlight.
DS9. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Very good one. Worst one's what I'm more interested to hear, though.
Yeah, I have to give this one some thought.
Okay, no, take a second.
I think of bad episodes from every show and every season.
Which one infuriates you the most? Like, the hardest one for you to get through? Like, this is just bad. I can't do it.
Probably the one, the Next Generation episode in which Troy gets pregnant by the alien.
I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
It's the light comes in through the ship, and then they make a whole deal about she's raped, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's kind of played off for laughs a little.
And then she gets emotional because she's a woman. It's
the classic worst aspect of Roddenberry. How did they stamp out sexism completely from Star Trek, or
no?
There's still some of it there. You think?
I think it's inherent in all of the series to one degree or another.
Oh no, I'll be honest. I guess I didn't think many of the characters were that good in Enterprise anyway. So
Enterprise.
Well, obviously with Voyager, with casting, for Janeway to be the female captain, I think they tried to bounce back, but they had a hard time balancing, I guess, the idea of femininity with her being a strong commander.
Yeah, I think Star Trek needs more female writers.
You know what? There you go.
That's one of the things I will say. Discovery is still finding its feet, but it does. Michael Burnham is a very interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
She has some.
I've heard some people don't like her.
I understand why they wouldn't like her, but she has more depth than a lot of the someone like Dr. Crusher on Next Generation, who doesn't have a lot of.
Yeah, well, she had her husband dying. There was that whole aspect, trying to be protective of Wesley, I guess.
Yeah, but again, that's like
too motherly, stereotypical.
And I'm okay with the female doctor. I didn't actually like Pulaski that much, but I think that Crusher she felt too traditional. And then Troy as, I'm the counselor who feels feelings, and
I can sense that he feels upset with you, Captain. When obviously, why? When did she improve ever?
Yes.
Do you think, as it went along?
Yes. Specifically, the episode in which she undertakes the Kobayashi Maru.
Oh, yeah.
It's in one of the later scenes when she wants to be a bridge officer, and she undertakes a test and realizes that
she's not quite.
She's still got a ways to go, because in that version of the test, somebody's going to die.
Yeah.
You have to make the call of who's going to die.
The classic Kobayashi Maru. I might be, maybe I'm in the minority on this one, but you're probably getting thirsty, so we'll probably wrap up soon.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I've always heard that the last season of TNG, people make fun of it because they clearly ran out of ideas. But I think that's the most interesting season because you get all kinds of wacky episodes.
Yeah, I'd rather have them push the envelope and try. That's Enterprise gets more interesting as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Although, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, my favorite episode of Enterprise is A Night in Sickbay, which is the one where the captain spends the entire episode in the sickbay with his dog, telling stories with the doctor.
Yeah, I think people have not liked that.
That is generally considered one of the worst episodes of Star Trek, but I really enjoyed that. It was just a perfect bottle episode.
Bottle episodes are good. I think Lower Decks is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Lower Decks.
That's a really interesting one. Honestly, with DS9, I have a hard time picking my favorites because I really just think of all the Dominion War as an arc I have to just sit through and binge it all.
Well, see, from DS9, any Oda Kira episodes tend to be, especially the ones that deal with their past.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great one in season 1, which is it's flashbacks to when the station was Cardassian, and Odo sort of slowly realizing that Kira is a murderer and had killed somebody.
Oh, yes.
And it's this whole murder investigation, and it gets and I also love the Ferengi episodes.
The Quark episodes.
Yeah, those are always just fun.
I think Odo might have the best character arc in any series.
Yeah.
Maybe him or Quark. Between the two of them, I don't know.
Yeah, they really understand in a way that they don't. Next Generation does have. Again, Troy has something of a character arc. Worf has something of a character arc. Data has
a continuous arc.
Yeah.
For into the movies.
Yeah.
You're right, but I think as far as that concentrated story, they focused much more on specifically developing those characters through the continuous arc.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the reason. Maybe that's just a different style of storytelling. I tend to really like those series that have that long-running story versus all the episodic stuff, generally.
Yeah, and that's, I think that X-Files really gets it down with having both the continuous story and the individual episodes, although I stopped watching X-Files after season 7 for...
Wise choice. Spoilers, really just stop watching after Mulder leaves.
Yeah.
I remember that episode, and it was a good episode. It was.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
But the moment when, spoilers, Mulder gets literally sucked up into the alien ship, I'm thinking that was awesome, and then immediately after that I'm thinking, wait, how can they do anything after this?
Yeah, whenever I was a junior in high school, that felt complete, and I knew he wasn't coming back. He ended up coming back, and I did watch the finale, which I didn't really understand because I missed
the last 2 seasons.
But as I understand, it's kind of obtuse and strange anyways.
And to be honest with you, how they handle the mythology in the new season's so rushed anyway that's also a problem. I hope in the new season they'll expand a bit more, because honestly, that's one of the big issues. Is it feels like when they're trying to wrap things up and keep him involved.
Yeah,
that seems to be where they run into the most issues.
Yeah,
but man, we've got maybe 10, 15 minutes. Is there any final thing you would like to discuss before we?
So I do have one question for you.
Oh my, me getting a question.
Oh yeah, well, I probably have more than one, but this is the one that going back earlier to Justice League.
Okay.
Something I really did like about it.
Okay.
Even though it was telegraphed at the end of the last movie, is that Justice League, in the trailers, the posters, everything else, no Superman. That his, spoiler alert,
spoilers,
resurrection in the movie was kept quiet in a way that the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok wasn't, even though it was played up the same way of... supposed to build to that, but Marvel had the Hulk front and center.
Okay.
DC did not have... Superman was not...
the market.
Yeah. His presence in the trailer was portrayed more as a dream sequence, although it ended up being reality. So, did you think that was effective?
I think that it's not as effective as it could have been. I think in terms of the narrative, pretending that I don't know anything about comics or DC or the Justice League, I'm like, okay, from a narrative standpoint, they're trying to fix some of the issues of the previous movie. There's Batman's guilt. He realizes how important Superman is, that he misjudged him. And even, all right. It worked for me a little bit. Because honestly, one of my favorite scenes of the movie, which was clearly a Joss Whedon touch, was you had the kid with his phone interviewing Superman, just asking him some questions. And that seemed really legitimate, like a little kid interviewing Superman and how he'd react, and just like that sense of a memory.
Yeah.
And that was kind of haunting the rest of the film. Had it been a better movie, I think it would have been really effective. So I liked what they were going for. The problem is, I remember at the end of Batman v Superman when they clearly had the image of the stones rising above his grave. I'm like, that's a bit much. That's not subtle at all.
No.
And so obviously, it was no surprise to me at all that he was going to be back.
Yeah, I mean, it gets to... I think Marvel trusts its audience a little more with the stingers, with the references to other things, and kind of expects you to...
investigate if you don't.
Yeah. Anytime a Marvel movie comes out, there's 6 articles the next morning of, here's all the Easter eggs you missed. Here's what was going on at the end of the credits.
But for some reason, I don't know if it's just the Warner Brothers studio or the executives, probably a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember the infamous Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you should use your real name, Robin. Literally had me pulling my hair out. Like, do you think we are complete morons? I think Warner Brothers maybe doesn't trust its audience enough. Like, okay, we promise Superman is a main component of the Justice League. He'll be there. He's going to be there.
Yeah.
He's going to be there. He's going to be there. And maybe that's just because I'm well versed in them.
Well, and The Dark Knight Rises also has the autopilot, and then we have to and it's just Batman could find a way to get out because he's Batman. We don't need an explanation, and we can play off the Alfred at the end.
No, Peter, because in the Dark Knight trilogy, it's supposed to be super realistic. So of course he can't get out in 5 seconds. which is another issue with those movies.
Yeah, super neutron bombs.
Which, not to go back to that old discussion, but even though I had issues with The Dark Knight Rises, I felt that he was more Batman in those movies, because remember scenes where he's literally dodging bullets and he appears across the world for no reason, like, whatever, he's Batman finally.
Yeah.
So in a way I liked that, but that goes against what they were going for.
Yeah, and I just feel like you shouldn't do a superhero as... Generally, you shouldn't do a superhero as grim and gritty. I think it works for the Marvel TV series for the most part. Luke Cage was very good. Jessica Jones was great. Mm-hmm. Daredevil season 1 was great.
A little. It was two different shows in season 2. Was the problem? Yeah.
Again, the first half with the Punisher was good. I haven't watched the Punisher series yet.
I haven't seen it yet either, and everyone's telling me it's great.
I've heard it's the best one yet, but
people always say that.
Yeah.
Iron Fist was bad though.
Nobody said Iron Fist was the best one.
But you know what? I have met people that are like, Iron Fist was great, but because I love it, because I'm an Iron Fist fan. But that was, it seemed like it was dumb, but it was just so cheesy. Like the whole thing was like,
he was the worst part of the Defenders. I don't know.
They made him the main plot point.
Yeah, I know.
The fact that he was useless, but. You're right.
I know. So yes, and his dumbness actually causes the.
Well, at least they made it work for it.
Yeah, I know.
But you're saying that superheroes can't be dark and gritty generally?
I think they can. Certain superheroes can be, but Superman shouldn't be dark and gritty, and I don't know that Batman should be all the time either.
No, not all the time. Even the animated series, it wasn't always dark and gritty.
No. And usually, Batman can be dark and brooding, but colorful villains is a way...
Contrast.
Which is part of why The Dark Knight worked, is we had Heath Ledger as kind of this colorful, very...
comical, bad guy kind of. Good contrast there for sure. But yeah, that's a good point. Let me check our time. Are there any final thoughts?
I don't know, there's probably a lot of final thoughts, but...
so many thoughts.
So, what superhero next year do you think you're most looking forward to? We have Black Panther, we have Infinity War, we'll have...
Deadpool 2, probably?
Deadpool 2.
Is Miss Marvel next year?
Captain Marvel's next year.
Yeah. Is there Aquaman or Flash or one of those?
I think...
Suicide Squad 2? Maybe?
Yeah, Suicide Squad 2, maybe? Yeah, there's another DC one next year. Because
and there's Hellboy being
Hellboy. I am looking, after seeing Stranger Things, season 2 specifically, I'm like, okay, I can see him as Hellboy now. Okay. I get it.
Okay.
I know he's not going to be Ron Perlman, but...
Who can be?
Yeah, it's sometimes, people get old, you got to let them pass the torch, and I'm curious to see what they'll do with it, but...
I agree. Which one am I most excited for? Honestly, man, I feel like I want to say Infinity War, but I'm also worried it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
I'm really worried it's going to... you can't do a massive crossover without being kind of a mess. But Deadpool 2, you got Cable in there.
Yeah.
And I believe Mr. Sinister is the bad guy. Possibly.
It's a little vague.
They said they hinted him in one of the other films. I think X-Men Apocalypse. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, there's also Domino, who's a favorite character of mine.
Domino's popping up?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Deadpool was so subversive, but just so funny and witty, and it's showing that 20th Century Fox is trying to do something with their X-Men property that they haven't done. Probably Deadpool 2, honestly. It would be mine. Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. I'm curious to see Infinity War. I'm excited for Captain Marvel. I want to see more female superheroes.
We definitely need more female superhero movies in general, and also ones that don't suck.
Yeah, that's the problem is Supergirl killed the female superhero for about 20 years, and Catwoman came along and killed it for more, and
I think people are just associating. It's not the fact that female leads can't be good.
No.
Just care about it, put the effort into it, and then it'll work better. Yeah. More likely.
It's the same thing with comics. It took Batgirl getting paralyzed to get her into Birds of Prey and give her own running series. So.
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah, the battle continues for equal representation in these films, I guess.
Yeah. That's...
There's another podcast, probably.
There's undoubtedly a whole series about the gender disparities in comics and the people of color and all of the other issues that are going on in the industry.
No doubt that in entertainment and in general, there'll be continuing to be issues regarding this, but I do think it's better than it used to be, for sure.
It is getting better. We're drawing attention to it. I think all of the things that are going on right now are good, that we're actually, things seem to be happening where people are being
reprimanded for things.
Yeah, a longtime DC editor was fired for sexual misconduct.
Oh wow! I didn't know it was DC as well.
Yeah, it's a big problem in animation that isn't usually talked about.
Western or Japanese?
Both. Probably both, but in the West there's a lot of problems,
image issues, and
yeah.
That there are a lot of issues, and it is important because in entertainment, when we're young, that's a lot of times what we're exposed to.
Yeah.
So you're right. A lot of the individual problems that people have regarding that.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a while before we have any kind of equality. It's going to take time. There are more women writing comics now than there were before, but they're still sort of underrepresented in the. And
still not that many big film directors that are women either.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's still a problem. It's talking about women who'd like to see direct a film, and it's like Catherine Bigelow. She could do. They suggested Catherine Bigelow for Suicide Squad.
And there's Sofia Coppola.
Patty Jenkins, who recently did Wonder Woman.
And this is usually I can name a few, and then it gets harder.
Yeah,
and that's sad.
It is. It's unfortunate, and there's certainly more that. Greta Gerwig, really more about an
actress. Yeah, was what I think. She directs too.
Yep. She just did. That's kind of odd. Lady Bird.
I think she did. She did that one?
I think she did Lady Bird. She did something recently that's supposed to be good.
Was that Saoirse Ronan in that?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, nice. Is that any good?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, well, I haven't either. But I saw that on.
I see it around. And I hear it's quite good, but
yeah.
I don't go out to see movies much.
Neither do I. I mean, I see them maybe once a month. The next movie, which you're invited to see if you're free, is I think we're probably going to see Last Jedi.
Yeah,
most likely. And other than that, I mean, I'm just waiting now for multiple reasons: time, money.
I saw all the superhero movies this year. We did see Blade Runner.
That was good. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a good follow-up. We saw Murder on the Orient Express. That was enjoyable.
Good. I want to see that too.
Yeah, I'd say it's worth seeing.
Did you check It or Dark Tower?
Nope. My girlfriend does not do horror movies.
I can understand.
And I read the reviews for Dark Tower and went, I'll maybe wait for a video.
It's on Redbox now, so I'm a big fan of the books, so I feel a sense of obligation.
Yeah.
But that's another discussion too.
Yeah.
But my guess is, Peter, and maybe I'm right, but we're coming up to the hour mark, so
all right.
I'm gonna wrap it up, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, yeah, glad. This is always
good. I mean, I've been trying to get you on like some kind of podcast for a couple of years. It seems like.
I know. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's just that's time.
The nature of life and time.
The nature of there's always something to be done. But
yeah, man. But hey, if you ever find time, hopefully it won't be too long before I get you on the next one.
Yeah, and I'd love to play some games, do some RPGs or something sometime.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We're both pretty busy individuals, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, I do. We used to game like about every Friday, pretty regularly, but honestly, I work every Friday, so I've been finding myself tired most of the time. So I don't do it quite as often. But if you're ever down to try a new game, I'm
well, and maybe once Star Wars wraps up and we can see what your availability is and see if we can get you in the mix for
your Star Wars game.
Yeah. I mean, it's so random right now that I don't want to say, oh yeah, come in, because it's
literally, trust me, like even with my channel, I mean, I try to be consistent, but I've been doing these podcasts kind of as a laid back way to get something out.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've been sort of kind of like splitting the difference where I'm trying to hang out with my friends that I don't get to see as much. Come on the podcast, and it's not perfect, I guess, but it works.
Yeah.
So far anyway, but I get these out when I can, and I'd love to have you on the channel or in general.
So, let's say, let's do this again, and next time I think the topic should be 1982. Because I think 1982 is the most important year in science fiction.
You know what? 1982 would be. I remember looking it up in Google, and I think there were like, a dozen great sci-fi movies that year.
And everything kind of that's the year that everything, it all opens up.
All right.
Again, with Star Wars and Close Encounters before that, but maybe we could do 1982 or maybe, great films since then. But I'd like to, maybe do something a little more structured next time, and maybe we can do it.
All right. Well, in that case, we'll do 1982 science fiction as a starting point for next time, whenever that is.
Good.
And that'll be yours, Peter.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man.